Spontaneous live cast, and I'm sure that anyone watching will probably be watching later rather than earlier because I didn't plan this live cast. I just decided to do a Sunday school chat, and when I say Sunday school, I'm well aware that that's just from my own perspective, my own mind. I have a lot of complaints, but I'm not going to go into that because I feel like right now what we've got going on in society is so complicated and so utterly confusing that most of us have, when we talk about fight, flight, or freeze, I feel like in society most people are freezing right now. And a lot of people are fighting as well. But there's not a lot of flight. And I'm going to get into this, but the message I want to discuss today is, I'm coming from a point right now where I've been a little bit low lately, quite a bit low. In fact, I'm probably right now at the lowest I've been in years. Ah, damn it. Gotta turn down the stupid camera phone. Uh, or the camera, or the camera phone. My brain is not working lately. That's why I haven't been making videos. Every time I sit down to make a video, I just say fuck it. I leave. And it's because I've had so much on my mind lately. I'm not going to bore you with the details. My personal life doesn't matter. You have your own personal life. You have your own problems, your own issues, your own shit going on. But with that shit going on, there's also this external burden of what's going on around the planet because we're consistently immersed in everything that's happening in like every place on earth. And so therefore people are very distracted with things that are going on in the world, and because of this there seems to be a refusal to look at our own hearts and our own minds and to really come together on the commonalities we have, you know, the consistencies, the things that make us who we are: love, connection, family. And it's actually hard to say that because right now I'm feeling a bit, I don't know, frustrated with life in general, just my personal situation, but also with the larger picture of what's going on in the world. I was going to make a video about pharmaceuticals earlier and antipsychotics and how like 20% of Americans, 17 million kids, are taking some sort of a psychiatric drug. And it's just, I started thinking about the problems that we're causing ourselves out of greed and out of hubris, out of arrogance and profit and greed. And I started wondering whether greed was a mental illness. And I started thinking over what is a mental illness, right? And I thought, well, if you're going to base mental illness on what is normal, then you don't have much to go on because it's hard to determine what is normal. But you definitely have to say that if that's what is normal, then wanting to be, let's say, a multi-billionaire is not normal. Most people would, sure, they say they want to be rich, but they don't have that much of a drive to get there. They think that will make them happy. But there are people who that's what they do. And I wonder, after you've attained a certain amount of wealth and you can't even be home with your kids, like, what is the goal of life? Like, for me, I have 3 boys. I want to raise my boys the best I can. It's hard to be all, there for them all the time. I try. I'm just a human. But if I had $1 billion, I would stop working right away. I would have no interest in making more money. But then again, maybe I would. And but I believe that with the knowledge I have now, if I had $1 billion, I'd be out. Even a few million, I'd be out. I have no desire to play the game and miss my life to make more money, to have a name. And I see this disease of greed being related to fame. People like to be famous. They like to be recognized. And I was thinking about this. I was like, some people like to be recognized for their strength. Some people like to be recognized for their fighting ability. Some people like to be recognized for maybe being a philosopher, like myself. I'm not going to deny I like it when people say, oh, that's a good thought. I was like, thank you. You know, it feels good. We all want to be seen as having some value and knowledge or something else. And for some people, that becomes like paper money. It's a weird thing. But addictions are addictions. And people are people. And we are going to gravitate towards something that brings us the most happiness in the shortest amount of time. And that brings me to today's sponsor. Thank you all for coming. Today's sponsor and today's video is brought to you by nature. I actually had something planned there, but I didn't remember what it was. Um, as I said earlier, I've had a lot of shit going on, so my apologies if my brain is scattered. That's why I'm making this live cast, to try to connect with my subscribers and discuss issues like, holy shit, life gets very confusing sometimes really quickly. In my case, it's a family issue, a health problem in the family, with you know, a lot of stresses brought upon by this. And on top of that, I have two different jobs going on that I have to finish by certain times. And it's small potatoes. It's not a big thing, but it's enough to make me go, what do I do? And I wake up at 4 in the morning, like I did this morning. At like 4, I woke up at, well, little. I woke up, tried to get back to sleep, then I got up and looked. It was 4:20. I'm like, sun was going to start to come up. We're at like the solstice, the longest days of the year, so the sun comes up at like fucking 5:30. It's like, well, I might as well just face the day. And when I woke up, and when I got up, I had all these intentions of doing all these awesome things today. I need to clean the garage. I need to, take the dog for a walk. You didn't hear that, Lucy. I'll take you later. I swear. Uh, she looked up like, huh? Good dog. Y'all know Lucy, right? She's a good dog. Um, I woke up and I started thinking about all the things that I have to deal with. So there's a big event going on at this property I'm working on, and it's going to be like 50 to 100 people, and there's no bathrooms. So I'm supposed to have these bathrooms done by the 30th. It's, what, the 25th or something? But I've been so busy with family and with my other job, I'm going to have to take some time off, go up and finish this. But in reality, it's a very small thing. It's not a big deal. And that's the point I'm going to try to make here, that these little work issues and deaths and sickness and all the problems we have, they're going to happen no matter how we look at it. In fact, it's one of those things, like losing parents is a great example. When I lost my father at 14, I think I was close to 15, but it was like right before I turned 15. It was a horrible experience, but I also understand now that everyone's going to go through that at some time in their life. You're going to lose a loved one. You're going to lose people in your life. You're going to lose your job. You're going to lose maybe a dream you had. And it's okay. Just take a deep breath and move forward. I find myself wanting to be more negative, but when I start the video, end up being positive. I was thinking about this submarine thing because a couple people sent me something about this submarine, this millionaire, and some other people who, everybody's heard the submarine story. And I started thinking about how humans, we bond together on emotional topics. and how fascinating that is, and how I really don't have much sympathy for a horribly built vessel that wasn't registered or certified, that a bunch of people went down in, way down in the ocean. It's kind of like the same way I'm like, you took off in a rocket and tried to fly to Mars and you blew up. I, it's weird because I don't have a lot of empathy for that. That sounds like a dick thing to say, I know, and that's why I'm saying it. Like, I don't. I mentioned this to somebody the other day. They have dead bodies on the hike up K2 or Everest, one of the Everest, paths to the top of Everest, has a guy with green boots that died, who knows, decades ago, I think. And they call it like green boots. It's a waypoint. You're supposed to look for a dead body with green boots, and then you're in the right location. Then you can head the rest of the way up the mountain. If you've never seen, to define my absurdity here, if you just go and Google traffic jam at Mount Everest, that's all you have to. That's all you have to do. Something to those effect, and you'll see a line of like 50 to 100 people waiting to summit. Each person taking their turn to go, ha ha, look, I'm here. Take a picture. Time to move on. Ha ha, I'm here. Take a picture. Time to move on. And the absurdity of it, it's kind of like this hubris of humanity. So what? You climbed a fucking mountain. But the issue is when people die. I don't have any empathy for people who die on mountains or in space or under the ocean. Humans aren't meant to go there. And I know that other people disagree with that and have a different opinion. I respect that. However, you've got to look at it like this. Life is fragile. Life is very fleeting and frugal with your own, let's say that your 9 lives. We don't get no 9 lives. We take our chances. And if you take a risk, that's your own risk. It's really that simple. Before I go on further and get to my main rant, I'd like to say hello to everybody. Hello, Rob Stoltz. Hello, Jonathan. Hello, Eric. Good to see you, my friend. Hello, Big Daddy. The day sucked, you said? I'm with you, friend. Hello, Pam. It's so good to see you. Phil. Seems like a distraction. Exactly. Those Sherpas are amazing, says Eric. The reason I mentioned Everest, on a side note before I continue here, is that there was a recent issue that some of you may have heard of where, I couldn't help but see this case. A guy who tried to hike Everest on his own, some rich guy, and he failed and he almost died, and a Sherpa came upon him. A Sherpa is somebody who carries people's stuff and helps them up the mountain. They're more acclimated to the environment. They can handle it better because they live at high altitudes. So you hire a Sherpa to carry some of your stuff and to help you up the mountain. The Sherpa, who was already working for another millionaire guy, saw this dude who was almost about to die. He took it upon himself to cancel his hike with the other guy, even though they were closer to the summit. And then he took the dying guy over his back, carried him down the mountain, took him into the first aid, got him all fixed up. And when the guy recovered, the first thing he did was he went to Instagram or Twitter and tweeted or Instagrammed, "Thank you to my sponsors." It's that simple. That's what he did. He didn't mention the Sherpa. He didn't say his name. He didn't say thank you to the guy that rescued me. It was a huge controversy in the mountain climbing community, but it shouldn't be, because most of these people are pretty fucking stuck up and in their own heads. Let's be honest. Anybody who wants to climb a mountain just wants to prove something. And it's something dumb. It doesn't make sense to me. But I'm not dissing somebody who wants to do that. I'm just saying it's a really dumb decision, and if you die, I don't have any sympathy. So that sounds really harsh, but it's truth. It's how I really feel inside. Like, when I hear of people doing risky things, it was kind of like when I was watching videos earlier about It was kind of like those instant karma videos. And a lot of them are people who are driving, souped up cars, and they're hauling ass and weaving in and out of traffic, and then they crash and they kill themselves or fuck their cars up. It's hilarious to me. Not when they die, don't get me wrong, but when they crash their cars, like when somebody in a Ferrari like tries to peel out and then hits the guardrail and does like fucking 10 grand in damage just by bumping his bumper. I laugh my ass off at that. Like, I can't help it. And I think, what is it in me that has this resentment towards those kind of people? It's because there's such arrogance and entitlement in people who treat other people like shit. And when you're driving that way on the highway, you're treating other people like shit who drive. So, total side note, yes, Eric, those Sherpas are amazing. Hello, Untitled username. Good to see you, whoever you may be, Untitled man. Vic Dick, the sub was joke. Let's build the sub in the backyard, firing the engineer. Oh, that was another thing about the submarine. Yeah, it was a joke because a lot of people said it should be at least a 20-inch window, but it was only like 7 inches thick. And it's basically like, I found out this submarine that went down was controlled by not a PlayStation controller, but a knockoff Logitech fake PS2 controller or computer game controller. It was a knockoff computer controller or knockoff PS3 controller that ran the submarine going to the Titanic. So, yeah, stupid is as stupid does, my friends. And these people just, they get what they get. I can't help it. So I'm an asshole for feeling what it is. Sprocaster, good to see you, my friend. Long-time subscriber. Stetton says, I feel much more sympathy to the loved ones that they left behind. That is a really good point. I definitely didn't acknowledge that, and my bad for not considering that aspect. But hopefully their loved ones would try to talk them out of it. But yeah, my thing is, I still don't have sympathy for the people, but I do have sympathy for, let's just say, when things like this happen, I always pull out the Darwin's law thing, and I can't help it because it shows future generations don't be stupid. Like, when I was a kid, I watched Jackass. Well, I guess I was an adult when it came out, but even when I was younger, I thought, this is pretty fucking stupid. These guys deserve what they get. You get your balls ripped off, or a giant gash, or you're stupid for doing it. Sure, it's entertainment, but it's dumb. It's dumb. And so yeah. Rob says Josh loves the sirens. I love that. Yes, I totally ignored it that time, didn't I? So done. Danage, I'm not familiar with you, my friend. I see you have the Eye of Horus, as your icon there. It says it's not falling apart. We're just moving into a new Kali YOLO or something. You might mean Kali Yuga, and I am very familiar with that. Kali Yuga is, there are silver, bronze, and golden ages, or bronze, silver, and golden ages, and then dark ages. And the idea is that we're in a dark age right now, and we're going to be moving back into a new age. It's the same as the idea that we're moving into the age of Aquarius, which is the same thing as the idea that we're moving into a return of Christ, which is the same thing as the return of Shiva the Destroyer, Shiva the Builder, or Buddha, Siddhartha, any other name you want to give to this ether. We don't know shit. And I feel like the idea that we're moving into a new age is only costing us personally in our ability to think rationally. No offense to you. I'm just, when I read comments, I want people to know. I read a comment, I might rebut it, but it's not personal. It's just my thoughts on the topic. I used to really look into this. In fact, I have a giant, like 3 foot by 2 foot graphic drawing I did with the sun, center of the galaxy in the middle, the sun, the Milky Way, and I drew all these lines and did all this documentation on it about how it was about the galactic wave theory. The idea that, okay, follow me for a second. So the sun goes through cycles. We know that the sun affects the psyche. It's hard to deny. You know, people do weird shit during full moons, right? Some people say it's just because it's brighter out and more people are out. No, there seems to be a magnetic effect on our brains. Some people may be more susceptible. So I had this theory that after reading a lot about this, that there was a galactic center. The galactic center would send these waves out every so often that would create maybe a leap in evolution, which is actually what I've heard from other people. Like, there have been evolutionary jumps in society, not in society, sorry, in the world, that have... I'm gonna go stop my dog for a minute. She's distracting the shit out of me. Come here. Come here. See this crazy dog right here? She's a lunatic. Lunatic Lucy. Come here. Come. Oh. Come. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. She sounds so vicious, doesn't she? She's so gentle, though. Tell me all about it. You feeling a little edgy, too? I'll take you to the park later, okay? I will. I promise. Sorry about that. I'm sure y'all enjoyed watching the dog more than my ugly mug. Where was I? Kali Yuga, yes. Hello, Humble. Oh, God. Vic Dick says George Carlin was right on so many things. I totally agree with that one. God has a multitude of names, says Jonathan. You are correct. The best one I've heard yet is the All. That comes from kind of the mystic schools and whatnot, and Freemasonry and all this. The All. It's everything. And God is not separate from humans. And the closer that we get to that realization, I think the happier we'll be. There are so many people who agree on what God is. But definitely everybody fights about what God isn't. It's a weird thing. Back to my glasses and reading comments. So y'all know, I forget to point out I'm reading comments. And be sure to hit the like button, you know, for the algorithm. I'm totally kidding. I don't give a fuck about algorithms, and I'm really sick of hearing about algorithms and channels that want to, you know, tell you about their sponsors and their ads and all their bullshit. What? What are you gonna find down there? What are you looking for? Get it. Get it. Get it. Get it. Dig. Love my dog. Sorry for the intrusion, you know, but it's live. What do you do? What's Stetton says, we understand what's the point of having a conversation if you can't have an opinion. I assume you mean can't have an opinion, and I agree. My friends and I, but I have a friend who's really liberal and a friend who's more conservative, but all of us still are on a spectrum in the middle. I'm very centered on this. I believe that out of all the people I know, I believe I'm the most in the middle on most issues, because I don't listen to Democrats or Republicans tell me what to believe or what to think. I don't care about the issues of the day or what people are concerned about, because if I do, that will influence how I think about life. If I watch somebody like Ben Shapiro, you know, that's no better than watching like Young Turks or something, where you're like going to hear, this is what's bad and this is what's good, and that's going to saturate your brain with preconceived notions about other people and other ideas, which are completely false. And so being in the middle makes you argue with both sides, but the point is all of us have a great conversation together because we're friends. Online arguments go fucking nowhere. Don't bother. Don't spend any time online arguing with people, because it is the biggest waste. And this has taken a decade or so of internet being, you know, so prevalent for people to realize. You know, I'm going to say the internet's been around, of course, since the 90s, but I'm going to say it really took off in the mid 2010s. That's when it became so prevalent in our lives. Everybody had to sign up to do online banking. Everybody had to sign up for online basically everything. So even the old, you know, the boomers were forced into it. And that's when it became so pervasive. It wasn't just like coders and figuring out operating systems. It was like so simple. Sign into your Gmail account and all of a sudden everything's at your fingertips. Everything you could possibly want. And yes, there's a convenience. You've got all your phone numbers stored on your SIM card. You don't have to worry about losing your emails. All these things are great, but are they? Is the internet playing a huge role in totally fucking ourselves? And that's how I kind of feel right now. And I mentioned this in a video I made yesterday about how it's not the internet, of course. It's like a hammer. You can use it to bash a skull. You can use it to, you know, build a house. Every tool can be used properly or used poorly. And we're using it very poorly because the large conglomerates and corporations have figured out how to basically co-opt our attention. This is why I don't use Twitter. This is why I didn't download Instagram. I started using Instagram because I build guitars, or I started doing it a couple of year ago, and I was like, I've heard it's a great place to advertise, and I just couldn't keep up. I just couldn't deal with it. It's just too much. I'm like, I want to go back to the old way. So, the old way, what is that? Slow the fuck down. Talk to people face to face. Go out and meet people. Go to concerts and sell your stuff on the lot. Or, you know, set up a booth at a Saturday market. It's so much more rewarding to deal with people and face to face than it is to have some online business where you're just packaging shit all day. I mean, I learned this when I was selling Kratom. I was doing pretty good. In fact, I was making more money selling Kratom than I was doing carpentry. And I just quit out of the blue. And I feel like an asshole because it was money. But it wasn't money I wanted to make anymore. I wanted to do it right. I wanted to be fair and sell something that meant something to me. And it's been a long ride, man. I've had a lot of stress lately, and so it's kind of allowed this to flow out of me, but at the same time restricted me from making my usual videos, which I used to do every day, pretty much, because I just don't have it. It's a weird thing. It's easier for us to lose who we are. So I'm going to try to catch up on comments here. Hello, Rashad. good to see you, my friend. And Freestyler, good to see you, my friend. And Phil says, I agree with Carpo and it's not cold. I come from a Taoist libertarian philosophy and people think I'm cold all the time. I, I, I sympathize with you, my friend. People think I'm heartless. I'm not. I will cry in the morning watching a video of some kid who's starving, but I won't cry when somebody dies in a submarine. That's kind of the point I was making. Like, adults make their own decisions, kids don't. Mostly if I cry, it's for the kids, you know, because they don't have the same knowledge that we have, and it's up to us as adults. Danage says, many megaliths around the world seem to point to ancient civilizations with high tech and a more peaceful, unified society. All right, Danage, that's a great comment, and I'm going to expound on that. And don't take this personal because this topic is something that's meant a lot to me over the years. I've been fascinated. I remember taking mushrooms one night and listening to all these discussions about ancient structures. Just one night that popped into my mind, but there have been like countless hundreds of hours I've spent listening to podcasts and videos and read stories about aliens, about psychedelics, about UFOs, about Bigfoot, you name it, all these things, cryptids, I mean, all of it. And I've become super sus about how much of this shit is true. But certain aspects of it really do ring true. And when it comes to ancient civilizations, the high tech, as far as having, say, I watched like Brian Forrester on YouTube, several other, you know, I've watched Uncharted X and all that crap where they go in and they look at this, the you know, tombs in Saqqara, or they look at the various drilling techniques they used to drill through rock. Ancient Egyptians, or whoever came before them that built these structures, definitely did have technology to cut stone. However, you could, over a period of time, find natural products like corundum, which will cut granite, and you run like a belt system to cut the rock. We just don't know the technology they used. But I don't know if the technology was advanced more than we have, only because there's no evidence of it so far. And I've looked at all of the different tools that have been found, the different discs, you know, and all the claims made, of course. I watched all of the that Netflix series from what's his name. I like the guy, but he really kind of lost me on that one. But I feel like I'm too much of a realist on this shit now. But the point I wanted to make is ancient civilizations were not peaceful. They did not sit around with their legs folded and just let shit pass. There was violence, there was aggression, there was death, there was probably execution, and even voluntary sacrifice in most cultures, because people understand that there's always going to be a segment of society that needs to be either coerced into behaving or be punished for not. And so therefore, there's never been a fully peaceful time. And if there has been, I haven't seen the evidence to prove it. So what I'd like to think is that we're at one of the better times right now. And that might be ignorant, but I have no evidence to prove otherwise. We have a lot of wars going on, but that's what we focus on. I don't think it's as bad as we really assume it is. Because we're looking through the lens of the television. It's like I always say, you go outside, talk to the neighbors, go to the store. Yeah, you'll see some shit, but it's not like you'll see if you go on YouTube or the internet in general. You'll think the world's falling apart. Protests and riots everywhere. And the way people talked about Portland as if it's like on fire was, you know, that always kind of made me laugh. I'm like, I went down there for the initial protests It wasn't on fire. There was conflict. Conflict is part of life, you know. Grow up and get over it, you know. Shit recovers. But that's beside the crime rate and all that shit. Totally different story. Anyway, moving on. Um, let's see how many comments I gotta catch up on. I see Crazy Colombian. Good to see you. He says, independent MAGA. No, don't like Trump's personality, but who cares anymore? It's not about him anymore. It's about bigger than Kennedy gives to. I, I don't really give a shit for Trump, but I understand now. It took me a few years to understand why people voted Trump. I got a lot of hate for talking bad about Trump back in the day, but I think that even Trump supporters today can finally start to say, okay, you know, yeah, you know, you're right. He's a total dickhead. I understand the reasoning why people voted for him. It wasn't because of his personality. It was because they wanted something different, because politics are bullshit. And because guys like Biden are not the solution. I get that. But yeah, what a weird time. I feel like that kind of triggered the internet into this like division that has not recovered. And it's pretty sad. It really is. Humble says, I've got 2 kratom trees in my backyard with chili plants. Nice. I ordered some kratom clones years ago, probably like 12 years ago, 10 years ago. And we had this crazy cold winter back in like 2016. So I guess it was like maybe 7 years ago. And, or no, it was like 2012. But anyway, all my shit froze, even inside the house. It was in the garage, but protected and under lights, and they all died. But I'd really love to get some kratom clones, so send me some over, bro. Hey, Chris, good to see you, my friend. So I'm gonna flip through the comments and get back to what I was saying. Oh, ZPG's survival says people just need to get together at the shows and enjoy music and share ideas. Hell yeah! I'm supposed to go to the Dead show this year, but I can't because it's well, we might be able to. My wife's mom is having health issues, so it's one of those problems where it's supposed to be the final Dead tour, and we were going to go to the Gorge Amphitheater and then to San Fran, and now we are not sure if we can go to either one because her mom, you know, it depends. We're going to try, but circumstances prevail, man. You do what you got to do. I mean, you can't always be selfish, right? The long-term survival of our guilt factor is more important, or guiltless factor, than going out and having fun for a weekend and feeling bad. But because you missed some major event, but that makes it hard, you know. So. Hey Adam, good to see you, my friend. So I'm going to go back to what I was saying because I should get focused again. Feel free to leave comments. I'll read them all. I always do. As a guy who's made YouTube videos since like 2011, I guess is when I really started making them. It's been about 12 years. And I've shared so many of my personal thoughts, but usually I feel really up to the task. And for most of the time, it's been, I make a video, I may or may not upload it. But when I do a live cast, it's almost like I feel obligated to leave it up because it was capturing me in my true nature. Carpo in the wild. Oh man, I make myself laugh more than anybody else does. That's kind of scary, but you know, it's just maybe that's a philosopher thing. Oh, so arrogant. I watch a couple of philosophy channels, and whenever somebody calls themselves a philosopher, I think, oh God, how arrogant. But it's just a lover of wisdom and knowledge, and so literally philosophy. Philo means to love. And the Sophie part comes from Sophic, which means wisdom. So it's to love wisdom. It's that simple. Who doesn't, right? Aren't we all philosophers one way or another? Don't tell anybody I vape. Back when I started vaping, I was going to design like a really cool philosopher's pipe for vaping. Nowadays, I can actually do that. I could just put a little bass on there. Technology's come a long way. Now I can not smoke cigarettes anymore, which I did from 1990. Wait, no, I started smoking in 1990. Or 89, 90. I smoked my first cigarette when I was like 15. Now it's in 1990. Really bad habit that I carried on until I was at least 40. And I insisted on quitting by the time I was 40. So 25 years I smoked. Now I'm almost 48. I've been vaping for about 7 years. Cut down quite a bit. I used to have one of those monster vapes, and then I got down to just this little simple unit, which is pretty nice. I like it. I might get demonetized for smoking on camera. That's a joke, of course. I don't care. You know, it's funny, I feel pretty free to talk about most things, but I see the self-censorship in so many channels that used to talk about really controversial topics, but now they bleep out every word, like suicide. That word cannot even be said. By saying that, what's going to happen is my video will be demonetized instantly. So even though I have ads on it, by saying the word suicide, it will be demonetized. And I feel that's a pretty fucked up dystopian bullshit world to live in. So I'm going to say it anyway. I'm also going to say murder and rape and all that stuff because it's important. The reason being, when I sat down to make this video, this live cast, originally I was going to do a podcast out in the garage, a very serious podcast, which I've taken notes for, which has to do with how many Americans are taking antipsychotics, any type of psychiatric medication. Now, I compared it to methamphetamine use. I thought, from what I read, and this is statistics from the NIH, about 500,000 people use methamphetamine on a weekly basis at least. And that's not even that much. I mean, the daily users are the scarce, so that's probably even much less. But let's just say, 500,000 people use methamphetamine every week. Most of those people aren't going to have problems, but some definitely will. How many people do you think are on psychiatric medications? It came out to 1 in 5. I haven't even looked at the math because I guess 1 in 10, 380 million Americans? So 1 in 10 would be 38 million. So 1 in 5, I mean 70, 72 or 70, 76, yeah. 76 million Americans taking psychiatric medication. Out of that, 17 million kids under 18 are taking them. That's a lot of kids. And that really bothered me. So I'm going to be having a future upcoming video about that. I think Lucy wants to go to the park. Don't you? But the point I wanted to make was that, we talk about how fucked up society is and how, I remember hearing all this bullshit about cannabis when I was young. I got in trouble a bunch of times, and they're talking about how harmful it is to society. And then when I looked at the numbers, it's like, are you kidding me? Like, these prescribed drugs are causing more damage long term than anything on the illegal market, but we're still okay with it. Many people stand up for psychiatric medicine, if you want to call it that, and it bothers me. But here's the thing: if adults take Ritalin, if adults want to take Xanax, Zoloft, I don't care. If you're an adult and you want to fuck your body up and go into some kind of problem, here's the thing: short term they can be beneficial. Anything after that, after a few months, you're asking for trouble. The withdrawals can be horrendous from all these drugs. But the issue I have is with kids. Giving kids drugs because they're acting out or being hyperactive really bothers me. The same way that assuming that a 5-year-old knows if he's trans or not, this shit makes me puke. Like, this is a societal disease we have right now, where people think that young kids need to be treated with drugs. If you want to give your kid drug, give him ayahuasca. I mean, you might as well if you're going to give him that shit. But I'm going into some deep territory. I'm sure people will be offended by talking about the trans issue. But I do not believe in giving people hormone blockers. I don't believe in giving children any type of, any children, even teenagers. Yes, I don't believe a 15-year-old should be taking hormone blockers, ever. It's like, I will never agree that a young child should be taking drugs that will change their physical appearance or their mental status, because kids go through shit. I went through a lot of fucked up shit. When I lost my dad at 15 years old, I went through some mental issues. And there were times when I was a teenager when I wore girls' clothes. There was times when I was a teenager where I felt like life wasn't worth living. But my parents never put me on psychiatric medication. I worked through my problems like a fucking adult should. And here I am. Now, I'm not saying that some people can't benefit from these things. Don't get me wrong. But man, it really bothers me to see young kids being fed pills because their parents can't handle who they are. That's a failure of the parent. But the pharmaceutical industry plays a huge role in convincing these parents that that's the right thing to do. So if you're interested in that topic, I'm going to leave it for the future video. I've been writing a book. I haven't written in it for like 3 months, but I'm about 100 pages in. It's about the pharmaceutical industry and the corruption. I've done a lot of statistical analysis, a lot of research on it, because I'm not just going to come in with, all these claims. I want to have statistics to prove it, and I was distraught that it was worse than I ever thought it would be. When I was growing up, all the parents were worried about their kids smoking pot. They would be willing to give them other drugs from the pharmaceutical industry because they didn't want their kids smoking pot, instead of talking to their kids. Most of these kids that I knew growing up were like the kids of pretty well-to-do parents. I had one friend who grew up with a Mormon family that had a big house. Another friend that was taking pharmaceuticals, that his parents didn't like him smoking pot, so they put him in like this drug treatment and took him away from all his friends. And I thought, wow, what a weird world. But it's on the parents. It really is. It really is. Okay, I'm going to flip down through the comments and just kind of read it. Adams, talking about the guy that shot up some people at the gorge. Yep, he was a military guy. Took too many mushrooms and thought the world was ending. And yeah, it was kind of a weird thing. Hello, Carpo. Oh, hey, Corey. Good to see you, man. Corey's been a subscriber for a very long time. I hope you're still playing guitar. I haven't been able to play mine for quite a while because I don't have the motivation. You're in New York. Nice. Violity says, when is your birthday? Oh, it's not till November. Humble says, I drink liquor often too. I'm going to be honest. I told myself this New Year's, when COVID hit, I was drinking a lot of booze. And I quit on New Year's. And I haven't, I was buying like the big Costco bottles of vodka. I didn't talk about it, didn't share it, but y'all knew it from some of my live casts. But I just bought one the other day. First time I've bought one in a long time because I was at Costco. Probably should have bought beer, but you know, it's I bought it for Sunday school. I party on Sunday. Got to go back to work tomorrow, so you know how it is. Pam says 5-year vaping. Humble says, I won't lie, I understand how bad liquor is for our system, but I enjoy a good buzz. Millions of mushroom chips told me such, but I still enjoy a nice buzz. I'm totally with you. Can't disagree with the thing you said, man. Bill says, been trying to send super chat, but my fingerprint won't recognize. Well, dude, there's my fingerprint, and I approve. You don't have to send a damn thing. I don't really need money. I just monetize it because it's an option. In case people want to. I think Humble he says I think there's a correlation between pharmaceuticals and rage, depression, suicide, and homicide. I agree, and I'm not even going to bring in the shootings that happen at these places where our kids go to school. But let's just say that I believe that long term, the pharmaceuticals, when they wear off, can cause much worse problems mentally than they ever had beforehand. So that shit can fuck you up. It can give you hallucinations. And the thing is, it's not a matter. It's like, oh, well, we need to increase your dose then. Oh, that's not working. We need to decrease your dose. Oh, that's not working. Let's try another drug. I heard one like kid who was like 18. She was on fucking 27 different drugs. Drugs for the drugs and drugs for the side effects of those drugs. And if people can't see that a kid taking 27 pharmaceuticals because they were stressed out, she literally went in with depression and stress because of school and because of her life. And they gave her 27 different prescriptions within a few years. I can't buy into this shit. I can't believe it. I can't believe people are willing to grab the brown bottle and just pop something somebody tells them to without even understanding what it is. It's disgusting. And shame on the parents that let that shit happen. Hi, Luce. What's up, girl? Hi. What's up, baby? Hi. Hi. Hey, Husky. Hi. Good dog. She's a good dog. Alright. Adam says, I've had a few bad trips, but that soldier was on the world's worst. I remember having a bad trip one night, and the worst trip I ever had was when the cops were like raiding this party in a tunnel, and we had this train tunnel down the way. So we went down there and we were partying with all these old, high school kids. We were in like, freshmen or something. And the cops came in one end of the train tunnel. And so we're like, oh shit. And we ran and we hung out at the top of the train tunnel. I've been wanting to tell acid stories for years, but we sat up there and I saw the red and blue lights still reflecting off the tunnel. So I was like, we'll just stay up here till they're gone. An hour passes, probably another hour passes. And I'm like, they wouldn't still be there. I realized we were just seeing red and blue lights because we took so much acid. So we went back down the tunnel and everybody was gone. I got a ton of stories about being high on a bridge or a tunnel where all these old schoolers were partying, and when the cops came, I would just hide. And when they left, I'd go up and take all the extra beer. I remember one time I got a beer bong and a whole bunch of beer that was left behind, and it was great. Yeah. I did some pretty ballsy shit. I was hanging out on these girders like 200 feet up on a train bridge, like huddled behind this like I-beam, like basically the river beneath me, waiting for the cops to leave. I don't know how long it took, but good times, good times. I don't regret any of those memories, I'll tell you. But anyway, the point was walking down to the train bridge one day, I had this bad trip, or what I thought was a bad trip. And it was really that I started looking at all these electric lines that went along the train tracks, all these power poles, and they were all T's. And I started thinking they were crosses, and it was like a graveyard. And it was just like kind of creepy. But at the same time, I was laughing. So I was like, is this a bad trip? And I realized I'd never had a bad trip because I've processed my shit before I even realized I needed to process my shit. If somebody takes psychedelics when they've never taken them as an adult and they've never faced their demons, it could be the scariest fucking shit ever. But when you come out of it, you're happier. And hopefully, if you do it right. But at that time, I was young and I was like, nothing scares me. I don't give a shit. I was like, oh my God, this is creepy as shit. But I don't even know what it, I will give you actually one bad trip I did have. Oh God. I stopped at 7-Eleven on my way home. I was catching the bus. And this guy I knew named Troy, he was the guy who influenced me to tattoo hate on my knuckles. He actually had fear, and he went to prison. He had fear on his knuckles. And my friend and I were both pissed off, and we did hate instead. Don't know why. We weren't angry, really. My dad had died, but other than that, it was like, I don't know why I did it. It was stupid. To be cool, I guess. To tattoo hate on my knuckles, because I'm fucking cool. I went to see that guy at 7-Eleven, and he's like, I've got some acid. I was like, you got some acid? He's like, yeah, dude, it's really good, though. He's like, I'm going to do you a favor and sell you 6 for 10. Mind you, back in the 90s, it was like 3 for 10. And he looked at me and said, dude, don't assume since this stuff's cheaper, it's weak. This stuff is strong. I'm like, yeah. Went home, I took one. He said, don't take more than one, just wait. I took one, waited a couple hours. Took 2 more. Woo, big mistake. But I didn't realize that mistake until the next hour when I took the last 3. And then the first 3 hit me, and holy shit, 6 hits of Felix the Cat. This shit was like, I don't know, it was like 200 micrograms or something, and each dose, I don't remember how much I took, but I've never been that high in my life, and I had to hide away on my couch and put my hands over my head, and that night I almost felt suicidal. It was horrible. Like, I was like, is this going to end? How am I going to ever make it through? But there was part of me that knew I'd make it through. But I had no company, I had no friends, and nobody to trip with. And if you want to trip right, you trip with the sitter. Always trip with the sitter. Even if that person's tripping too. Just make sure they're experienced. I've been the sitter a couple of times for people unwillingly, even when I'm high. And it's hard when you're high too, but you always come down. You don't really hear many stories of acid, like people who don't come down. That's just like an urban myth. Maybe from people who take a sheet or a half sheet or a quarter sheet. You don't need that. Don't be dumb. It's dose dependent. Sure. You can take 10 times of a dose of anything and fuck yourself up for life. It can destroy your liver. It can destroy your brain, destroy your lungs, kidneys. Just be smart. Use the right dose. That's what it's all about. Psychedelics are amazing. But yeah, Lucy does remember when we said park. And in fact, I'm going to have to go to the park. Yeah. You remember park? You want to go for a walk? Because I need to get her stuff ready. Oh, baby girl, huh? She's all excited. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I need to go cook dinner for my boy and I, too. So, yeah. It's good talking to y'all. Thanks for coming. And I'll see you next time. Bye now.